these stories just kind of roll off the tongue and never engage in your head. And I just want to talk to you about a couple of things that I noticed. First of all, you know, the main characters in the story are Joseph and Mary. So here's Joseph and Mary traveling from Nazareth to Bethlehem. That's 90 miles. 90 miles, and there's absolutely zero historical evidence that Mary rode on a donkey. Chances are she walked at 9 months pregnant. Imagine that, some of you ladies who have given birth. Walking from your bed to the bathroom when you're 9 months pregnant is a challenge, let alone 90 miles. So they're exhausted. And I can see Mary at some point. It's like, Joseph, I'm done. That's it. I can't go one more step. Look, there's an inn ahead. Can we at least stop and check it out? So let's talk about these people who are gathered at the inn. These were a conquered people. Conquered. They had been summoned there by the ruling authority of the land. They had zero choice in the matter. They had to show up. They're bitter. They're frustrated. I can just imagine angry voices filling the air. All of a sudden, the door opens. And silhouetted in the door is this young couple. All of a sudden, the voice is silenced. I don't know if you've ever walked into a place that's kind of a local hangout and you're a stranger there. And you walk in, all of a sudden, the conversation dims. They turn around like, who are you? And why are you in our hang? That's kind of what was going on here. And then Joseph looks around and he says, do you have a place we can stay? See, my wife is about to give birth. The innkeeper, he's probably on the run serving somebody when he hears this hesitant request from this newcomer standing in this doorway. And he's like, sorry, kid. I imagine a guy with a cigar stuck it out of the corner of the mouth. Yeah, sorry, kid, you don't have any room. Can't you see? Get over fall. All of a sudden, it's like he actually sees them. And it's almost like his conscience gets the best of him. And he says, I got a stable out there in the back. If you want, you can use the stable. I mean, it's not much, but at least you'll have some shelter. Yeah, go on. Go take it, Well, they didn't have any options, so they took it. Verse 7 of Luke chapter 2 says, and she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. I want you to understand something here, you guys. The world has never had room for what God is trying to birth. Because the inns are already too full. Schedules are too full. Agendas are too full. Minds are too full. Our lives are too full. So God looks for the mangers in our lives to birth His promises and our purposes. The problem is, too often, we try to squeeze through an open door in the inn. When you listen to me here, too often we try to squeeze through an open door in the inn when God is saying, I've already got the perfect place for you, even if it looks like a manger. That was really good, Ron. Thank you. I think that was good. Listen to this one. As we learn to trust God in the manger without striving for the inn, we will see promises and purposes born that we could never have even imagined. Far too many people are waiting to walk into their purpose and calling for this season, but they're struggling with how the manger-like circumstances look. The vision or promise in their head seems to outweigh the position they currently find themselves in. Zechariah 4:10 says, "Do not despise small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work beginning." Let's talk about some small beginnings. Joseph, remember Joseph? You know what his prison was? His prison was his manger that led to the palace and ultimately the rescue of his entire family and the birth of a nation. David was just carrying the cheese to his brothers when he encountered Goliath and set in motion events that would bring about him becoming not only the poet laureate of the ages, but Israel's greatest king. Mary, just a young girl in love. That's it. Young girl in love. She discovers that she was going to become the mother of the King of Kings. But she set her heart to obey, even though her path led through humiliation, being misjudged and ridiculed by those she loved the most. Luke 1:38, she says, "I am the Lord's servant, and I am willing to do whatever he wants." You see, God measures differently than what is seen on earth. 1994, there were two Americans who were invited by the Russian Minister of Education to teach morals and ethics in some of Russia's public schools, prisons, businesses, the fire, police departments, and finally at a large orphanage. It was almost Christmas when they finally arrived at the orphanage. So they decided that for their assignment, they would just tell the Christmas story. Story of Jesus' birth to the orphans. So they told them about Mary and Joseph arriving in Bethlehem and finding no room in the inn, about the stable where Jesus was born and placed in a feeding trough. This is the first time these kids have ever heard this story. And so, in order to reinforce the story, they had the kids do an activity. Here's the activity. Each child was given 3 small pieces of cardboard to make a manger, a little paper square cut from yellow napkins, which the children tore into strips to represent the straw. Small squares of flannel cut from an old shirt were used for the baby Jesus blanket, and baby Jesus himself was made from pieces of tan felt. And as the Americans made their way around the room, they came to one table where a 6-year-old boy named Misha sat with his finished project, a manger with 2 babies. Through the translator, they asked Misha, "Why are there 2 babies in the manger? Didn't you understand the story?" And this is what the little boy said. "When Maria laid the baby in the manger, Jesus looked at me and asked me if I had a place to stay. I told him I have no mama and I have no papa, so I don't have a place to stay. So Jesus told me I could stay with him. But I told him I couldn't because I didn't have a gift to give him like everybody else did. But I wanted to stay with Jesus so much, so I thought about what I had that maybe I could use as a gift. And I thought maybe if I kept him warm, that would be a good gift. So I asked Jesus, if I keep you warm, will that be a good enough gift? And Jesus told me, if you keep me warm, that will be the best gift anybody ever gave me. So I got into the manger. And Jesus looked at me and he told me, Misha, you can stay with me for always. 2 Kings 6:17 says, and Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So my dear friends, in this season, this is what I pray over you. I release new vision over you and your circumstances. I pray for new lenses of your heart to come alive. I declare that you will see the manger around you the way God sees it. And I prophesy that in this new year, you will be ready to give birth to the purposes and promises God has destined for you. And it's my hope that you will find that place where the King of the universe invites all of us orphans to come and to stay with him for always. Because as we learn to trust God in the manger without striving for the end, we will see promises and purposes born that we could never have even imagined. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.